What's going on, everybody? 10 May 2023. Welcome to Fire for Effect Live. My name is Army Kris. I know most of you are watching hockey right now. I get that. If you can hear in the background, I have the hockey game on. And I cannot tell you what I feel about this fucking game against Toronto and Panthers, because most of my listeners or viewers are from Ontario. So I can imagine how you feel about it. We're going to see how it goes. Let's bring the boys in. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bryce Hooper, Mr. Morgan Warren. What's going on? We got audio? We got audio. Okay, I'm loading up that image.
As you can see,
He's in the house.
I'm also wearing my Oilers.
Mike.
Just saying.
Blue and orange.
Wearing his blue and orange.
It's okay. They're going to blow it again.
Tonight's, since my man's here, go Panthers, no fucking shit, Mike, right? Okay, Mike said it first, so there you go. This episode.
That being said, fuck me, it's
now Toronto
it's
can
Leafs,
fuck
right?
off. I know you're a newfie. I know you're a newfie, so you got to cheer for Toronto because everybody.
No, I'm not at all. Like the Maple Leafs can't even fucking lose properly. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The Leafs are so shitty, like next level shitty, that they will win just enough games so that they don't even get any draft picks. Like. It's like, whereas at least when Edmonton's like, we're going to lose and we're so shitty, we're going to be dead last. And they got all kinds of fucking draft picks and all kinds of shit. That's how they got Connor McDavid. At least the Oilers are like, we're trash and we're going to come dead last so we can get a bunch of draft picks.
Well, they better get their fucking shit together tonight.
At least be strategic about it.
But the Leafs aren't even smart enough to do that. So you can say what you want about the Oilers, but at least if they're going to lose, they'll commit to it.
I got Dave downstairs who's going to give us the play-by-play. I don't know if it was 0-0 when it came up. So if Mike, you got it on the background, let us know who's winning. This episode of the podcast is in fact brought to you by Positive Mike's Brewing. I got the beer. You can still get the gear. Check out Positive Mike's on all his fucking socials. And tonight, Mike, I've got the Black Mud Creek Lager, which is not a new one, but it's a good one for me. Now, pouring this is a bit of the fucking process. We went through some shit on Jimmy's pod, but I was pretty loaded, so I'm gonna try to get this right.
This is bullshit. I don't want any of Mike's gear, but I totally want Mike's beer.
Come on, well, you just come over. He brought a fucking shitload over.
Okay.
Oh, man, you should be pouring that.
Super tasty. I'm all about
beer.
Look
at that.
You should be pouring that by your microphone. Yeah, that's a good pour.
Listen to that. I don't know if you can hear that. That is a fucking lovely. These are all good beers. I've had most of them. He's got some new shit out.
I don't doubt it for 1 second.
The thing is this, I normally save them for cooking, right? Like the jalapeno wheat. It's a jalapeno wheat, I think. Fuck, buddy. That in a chili is off the chain. Absolutely off the chain.
There you go.
I don't want to cook with it. I want to drink it.
Well, you do. Listen, you do a bit of both. You cook with it and drinking. And actually, I think my next Flying Kitchen, I'm going to feature whatever I'm doing. Hello, Danielle.
Miss Panielle, how is she doing?
Yep. Hello, Danielle. I'll make sure to bust out my comb again for you.
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
Danielle, you're not watching the game. What's going on? Let it sit for a minute. Let it sit on the palate.
Thick, dark ale.
No. It's a lager, but it's got a little bit of weight to it, right? It's Black Mud Creek. You know where that is? Southwest. Come on.
Yeah.
Mike's themes are very. He puts a lot of time into the names he puts into his beers, and you need to really be around local to the area to understand the naming conventions that he uses, and I do respect them. So there you go. Okay, give me 2 seconds. You guys entertain the masses.
Uh-oh. There you go, Morgan. What do you want to talk about? First thing?
Talk about something. I got to step
I guess I can update some people on my career and the fact that, believe it or not, I'm actually still in the Army. That being said,
I still can't believe that, man.
I know. For those of you that are new, I actually, the last day I put a uniform on was November 11th, 2021. I was Sergeant Major, Charlie Company 1 PPCLI. And then because I didn't get vaccinated, they said, don't come to work on Monday. And I was just like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, we're dead serious. And I haven't been back to work since then. I've just kind of been a floater. But I actually got moved over from like a regular army unit to what's called like the transition unit. And at the transition unit, you can either transition out of the army, or you can take a break and go back to an army unit, because maybe you just need like a bit of a break and you can be born again hard and go back to a unit. Anyway, so as of last Friday, they moved me over to the transition unit, and so they're talking to me a lot about now if I'm like if I go back, or if I'm going to be released and how I'm going to be released and things like that. So it's been it's been interesting for me. And it's not necessarily, it's kind of strange actually, because it's not necessarily how I see my career going. I mean, being a fucking hard charger that I am, and former Canadian Army Master Sniper.
This is your idea of covering for me while I fucking sort some shit out.
We're giving
an update on my career, and the fact that I'm actually at a transition unit now. So it was interesting.
So you're actually at transition unit.
As of last Friday, as of the 5th, I'm actually.
Well, I guess I'm not exchanging those recce tents now.
Oh yeah, you can. Hey Kris, you know that we still know enough people. You're absolutely
I know enough guys.
Exchange those recce.
Buddy was like, I was like, "I'll fucking give me next June. Shane's back. Don't worry about it. I got guys." I'm amazed I still have guys. Like here's the thing about the Army for everybody watching this and listening to this is, first of all, yes, I was fucking hammered last week, and I make no apologies for it. We had a good pod.
Is it the last one where you and Bryce were together and I was here?
Yeah, he was hot as fuck and I was loaded. And you guys were fucked.
Right, that was enjoyable. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, next time, Bryce, you're gonna be where you are. You're gonna be remote where the fuck you are, and me and Kris are gonna be at his house because I want to be shitty drunk Kris. And we're gonna and me and Kris are gonna be a disaster, and you're gonna be in control.
Yeah, so
that sounds like a perfect idea.
It's amazing how many guys you still know. Like, because I've been out of the Army technically for 10 years.
Wow.
And I'm still connected.
Yeah.
Still connected to guys. And here's why. Because back in my day, just give me a minute, put your fucking helmets or wash basins on. Senior non-commissioned officers drank in a thing called a mess and networked with each other. I'm not sure that's a thing these days.
You know what, Kris? I'm going to go one step further. I agree with what you're saying.
Go ahead.
I agree with what you're saying, but also think in 10 years, when you were a warrant officer, some of these guys were corporals and master corporals, and now these guys are senior sergeants, warrant officers on their way to be MWOs. And the reason you're still connected is because you were a fucking good leader. Your subordinates, the troopers, they respected you. And after you fucking left, they fucking remembered you, and now they still contact you, and you stay in contact with those people.
That's part of it, but back then and I'm not fucking using alcohol as a fucking catalyst, although it's a good one.
It is a good one.
Going to the mess, your drinking establishment based on your rank was a thing you did, and that's where you interacted with people from other units that could support each other. So. Yeah. If I was in one combat engineer regiment or wherever, and I needed something that I didn't have, I could go talk to a guy from service battalion and feed him a few beers and say, "Hey, dude, I need this." And that is how it worked.
100%.
That's a thing. And that's to translate this into civvy language. It's about those socials you have at noon where you network with people. And then when it comes down to the time to make a fucking phone call, hey, I could really use this. They help you out. Yeah. I'm not sure, and it's not the fault of the guys because they're a product of how they were raised and brought up. That's still a thing. Like when I talk to current serving members, I'm not naming names, that are at the rank I was back in the day, and they explain their problem to me. I'm going, well, fucking just call this guy, do this. And they're like, well, I don't know anybody over there. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know anybody over there? Fucking, you better know somebody at 7 CFSD. Or a one service battalion or wherever, because when you need shit, you call those guys. See, the military, in case you haven't heard, we're going to come to this later about how failing we are now after getting fucking basically ignored on this whole AUS UK submarine fucking thing in the Pac Rim, is the Canadian military is becoming irrelevant on the world stage. And that's on the world stage, but internally it is broken and continuing to break down. So those traditional relationships that you would have had to make things happen. So we never had enough equipment. So if my unit wanted to go do something and really needed all the shit, the officers of the unit would count on us to go make it happen. And we fucking literally would go rob and rape from other units to go make something happen.
Yeah.
Because we had relationships with those guys to get whatever kit equipment we needed to make what we were trying to do successful.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was for fucking years. And I don't know. I don't have a clue how it works now, but that's how it was. So
yeah, but Kris, I'm still going to double back on what I said because all those people that you were connected with, a lot of them, think about it, you've been out for 10 years. A lot of these guys that you were connected with, they're out now too. So I'm like I said, I'm going to double down on what I said. The reason that you're still connected and you still know guys like on the inside is because when you were a warrant officer, these guys were master corporals, and they remember you and the positive influence and impact you had as a leader.
Yeah, that's fair. You're right.
And because of that, if you were a fucking asshole, you would not be connected. You wouldn't.
Yeah. No. And I agree with that. I could still, but the number of guys,
I know you're a humble guy.
The number of guys is getting pretty fucking thin, right? Like there's a number, it's getting pretty thin, but I still know enough guys who know a guy who know a guy.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty good after 10 years of being out.
Yeah, 10 years is quite a while in the military. That's a lot of transitioning through.
That's a fucking generation of guys.
Yeah.
So to be able to pick up a phone, even though the number list's getting shorter, and say, hey, I need this or I need this, I still know enough guys, or I know enough guys who know enough guys, that network's still kind of there to get the shit we used to get, right? So, absolutely. And yeah, it's a beautiful fucking thing till it's fucking dead, but it's not dead yet. Not dead yet. Still got to I still got some mod I need to exchange and a couple recce tents. I shouldn't be saying all this shit, but anyway.
How would you bring that?
We know enough people. Hey?
Still know enough guys. Still got some influence.
As a matter of fact, I know for a fact a newly minted CQ.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys. Well, let's not fucking name names. I don't want to burn the guy.
I don't want to burn that. I'm just saying.
I don't want to burn that card right away, man. And especially, okay, so for everybody watching or listening, anything that ends in Q, that's somebody you want to know. That's quartermaster. Remember Q from James Bond? Yeah. That's where that comes from.
That's where all the toys hang out.
Right? That's where all the toys are. So
if you need
shit, you want to know the CQ, the SQ, the RQ, the BQ. If it ends in Q, that's the dude you need to know.
Yeah, he's a shaker and a mover.
Shit, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being a fucking BQ, and like suddenly everybody's your fucking friend.
I was CQ and an SQ. I know all about
right? Suddenly everybody's your friend.
What are these positions for those that don't know anything military?
Okay, so I guess so. CQ is company quartermaster, SQ is a squadron or school quartermaster, and BQ would be battery quartermaster. So the important letter is the Q.
Is the Q.
Yeah.
Because the quartermaster, so you got your sergeant major, and below your sergeant major is a guy who is like essentially in line to be the next sergeant major.
And he controls all the shit. He or she controls all the stuff.
All the shit. So every bit of food, every bit of serialized equipment, everything that comes in and out of that in and out of that company, battery or squadron goes through that quartermaster. He's the guy that makes sure everybody has all the equipment, all the food, everything they need is the quartermaster.
Wow.
No,
and so those guys, is that usually a warrant or a sergeant major position?
It's usually a senior warrant officer. A guy who is like
senior warrant officer that's in line to become a sergeant major and eventually chief. It's a high level position that is prerequisite to become a company battery fucking squadron sergeant major.
Yeah. Man, there's a couple of awesome comments.
You're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
We got to go after a radar or a clinger. Well, nowadays there'll be a radar.
Okay, good analogy.
Plenty of clingers too.
Yeah, there's enough dressers.
And here's the good news: if you look back to Corporal Klinger, the cross-dresser, who was the guy who could get everything, or was it radar? Either way,
radar was the signal.
Klinger was the cross-dresser. Radar was the SIGs guy.
Yeah, but which guy could get all the shit? Which guy was the
Klinger?
Klinger was the CQ.
He was the scrounger.
In the modern army, you can dress like Klinger was looking to get kicked out so you get out of Korea.
Yeah.
Now that's acceptable. You can dress like that, and it's not a fucking big deal. But to be fair to the analogy, taking pot shots at the military, yes, Klinger was that guy who could call a guy who could call a guy. If you got a good quartermaster or even a combat storesman, a storesman who worked for the quartermaster, Those
Yeah.
motherfuckers knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. If you needed something you couldn't get, those are the dudes who could get you the stuff,
Exactly. That's
right?
what
So,
yeah.
and
You just had to know those guys,
when you
100%,
talk
man.
about humility, I was humble enough to know as a warrant officer, if that fucking career corporal, 20-year corporal, was a storesman, I would go to him and say, "Hey, man, can you fucking get me this?"
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, he had more connections than I did.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
at least
100%.
he had okay, he didn't have more connections than I did. He had greasier connections than I did.
And
He
you know
was on
what,
the career corporal net where these guys didn't give a fuck, right? They
Fuck
were
yeah.
never getting
It was
promoted.
it
You're
was
like,
his own
"I'll get
mafia.
you that."
But and I'll actually disagree with you, Chris. Not only did the guy have greasier connections, he absolutely had more connections. So when I had
100% he did.
when I had
100%.
my stores corporals, like the way I used to pull them aside and be like, listen, I'm not here to mess with anything that you're doing. I was like, you guys know what needs to happen. Whether we're here in Edmonton and Garrison, if we're in Wainwright in the field, you guys know what needs to happen. I was like, all as I am, look at the crown. I'm a warrant officer. Look at the crown on my chest. If somebody jerks you around, I'm your muscle.
Yeah, you call me.
I was
you
like,
call me and
I'm your
do
muscle.
it.
I was like, if somebody
Sure,
jerks
man.
you around, I was like, you call me, I'll come in and I'll lay the smack down. I was like, so you can continue to do business as usual.
But
I was like,
I think it goes more than acquiring stuff. Like if I walked into a unit lines and let's say I'd been away, course, tasking, whatever, deployment, and it was all weird and fucked up. I'm not going to the sergeant major, and I'm not
No.
going to the troop or platoon commander, troop commander, squadron commander. I'm gonna go find out the crusty old senior corporal who doesn't give a fuck. He knows his
Yeah.
lot station in life. He's not changing.
Yeah.
And I'll grab him and say, "What the fuck's going on around here?"
Yeah. Man,
And
there was
that
a guy.
is gonna tell me exactly what the
And-
fuck is going on
and
around
And he
here.
knows all the
And
dirty
then
secrets.
I go
Yeah.
back to my sergeant major and my fucking troop commander and go, "Hey, what's going on, sir?" And they say some line of bullshit. I'm like, "Nope, nope, that's not what's going on. I just got back, but I know you're full of shit." So like fucking those old dudes, so this translates into civilian world too. It does. There's old guys that never got promoted. They've been around the establishment for a long fucking time. If you're in a leadership position, you should be leaning on those guys and fucking keeping them in your pocket to keep
100%.
you educated, because they got a pipeline and a connection.
Yeah.
They got nothing to lose. They'll say exactly what's going on. And
those
I
guys,
never, if some fucking new fuck came in and was shitting on that 20-year corporal guy, I'm like, you better shut the fuck up. Do you know who that guy is?
yeah, these guys, like people don't realize it. That's the glue that holds the institution together. Because
Yeah.
like warrant officers, sergeant majors, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, we get posted in and posted out, and you've done time in the 1st battalion, the 3rd battalion, one
100%.
RCHA, 2 RCHA, and you don't know shit about shit. But when you go to the field and you need your meals to show up, you don't even know where the fuck they're coming from. You need your ammo to show up. You don't even know where the TDM is. But guess what? These corporals know where everything is.
They know everything.
They know everybody. They know everything. Like when you get a new colonel that comes in.
Man.
If you need anything, we might give orders and we make things happen. But these are the guys, they're the glue that holds it together. Because without them, nobody knows where shit is.
100%.
It feels like with our
100%.
fucking the bulk of this pod is going to be career corporal lane. I'm good with that because I
CFLs,
was smart enough, man, buddy. I learned early, so I was fucking a corporal bombardier for like 2 years. I was a streamer. Okay, I was a streamer for like till I hit sergeant, then I flatlined for 11 years. Long story. But I always knew the value of those core guys that have been around forever, never wanted to get promoted. They weren't interested in leadership roles. It wasn't their jam. They just wanted to be the dude. But their time in the unit, when you spend that much time in the unit, you know everybody, and they came up with all the guys who suddenly were their bosses. And their bosses, if they were worth a grain of salt, and they didn't fuck with those guys, they didn't take shit off of them. You know what I mean? So those guys were always valuable assets. And like I said, if I came back off tour, tasking, course, whatever, and didn't know I've been away from the unit for a long time, the first fucking dudes I'm going to are not my boss. It's them. Because
Yeah.
they're going to tell me point blank, and you got to
Jimmy
take
the
that with a
skinny.
grain of salt. Because some of them are disgruntled, like everything's fucked. I'm like, well,
God,
it's
you're
always
ugly.
fucked. But at least get perspective of 2 or 3 of those guys, process that in your brain, and
Yeah.
then formulate your conversation with your leadership as to what's going on, and then you move forward. And that's how the fuck it needs to work. So those dudes have always been invaluable.
And they've always been
Me.
around too. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And if you don't know the guy or the girl that's been around, I
Every
mean,
unit's got
look
one.
around. They're the guy. They've got to be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna say one more thing about career corporals, but I'm gonna answer Danielle's question. But I remember I had a career corporal that was working in sniper stores for me, and then in SIG stores, there's another career corporal that worked for the SIGs warrant. And I remember one time, like obviously higher ups come up with fucking brilliant ideas. They're like, we're gonna move these guys somewhere else.
Fuck
And
you
they
are.
asked me in the SIGs warrant to like, how do you feel about like losing your career corporals? And the SIGs warrant looks over to Sergeant Major's like, he goes, if I got to find myself like a new SIG storm, and he goes, you can find yourself a new SIGs warrant. He's like, because I'm not doing it without this guy. And I looked over and I was just like, yeah, I was like, I concur with him. I was like, you can find yourself a new master sniper as well. I was like, because I can't do it without this corporal. Like,
oh no,
I was dad, but this corporal, he was mom, and he's the guy that kept the fucking world. He was the guy that kept the world turning, right?
Yeah, like for everybody watching or listening, before we'll get to Danielle's question here quickly. Don't just think that the CF rank structure is that structured. Doesn't quite work that way. It's an integration. How can I explain this? It's an integrated fucking thing where
Between positions and rank.
And it's you need if you want to do well, and I think I did well in 25 years. It's respect those guys, even though they're lower ranked than you, that have put the time in and have made the connections and know how to make things happen. Because at the end of the day, when the metal meets the meat and you fucking go outside that wire, it's the guys who know how to make things happen. Nobody gives a fuck about your rank. They care about who knows how to make shit happen and shake and move things and stuff like that. So anyway, Morgan, you're gonna address Danielle's question.
Yeah, she's getting out of hand in these comments. Jesus.
So it's a simple answer, really. I mean, like, so I'm at the transition unit now, and what the transition unit does is it allows guys either one, like take a break, take a breather, so they can be born again hard and go back to a unit, or if a guy, like myself, realizes, you know what, like I kind of hit my expiration date and it's time for me to leave the military.
Oh, this guy's fucking shelf expired. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. But it allows you to leave the military like in the most positive way possible. So they actually they'll inform you of every type of program possible that the military has to allow, whether it's like education or like a medical or anything like that, to set you up for success when you exit the military. Not to mention you're given like a nurse case manager to help you with your medical things if you're getting medical release. If you have a plan, you're like, I want to do schooling for such and such a thing. I want to be a mechanic, or I want to be somebody in the media. Like they'll actually kind of help you out and say, like, this is what the military is willing to give you. Not to mention they give you all the information with regards to like Veterans Affairs, all these other things. So at the end of the day, like the transition unit is there for the member. You ask them questions, they'll give you answers, and like whatever it is you want to do with your life outside of the military, they will do everything. They'll bend over backwards to help you kind of set yourself up for success in the future. So it's a very positive thing. Now, there's probably some guys that go to like hating the army and hating life, and
but those are the same guys that bitch about everything.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas like me, I'm like, you know what? Like I'm gonna go there. These people are there to help me. I'm like, your guys are great. Thanks a lot. And I'll call them. I'll answer all their questions. I'll give questions to them, and there's like, it's just great, So I'm having
one of my best friends. He's out now, Carl. He ran transition center back when I was at HSG, and fucking, I saw what it was, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is just a halfway house for guys getting out, but it's more than that. It's come a long way. Because way back in the day, basically, if you're a fucking idiot or you're fucked in the head or you're a rock star, when it's time to go, you're just gone. Boom, done. See you later. Here's your fucking golf bag or your fucking mug or whatever, and you're out.
Yeah.
Now they've and it continuously evolves. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it It was at SBHL, and then
Well, it was SPHL, then it
JPS.
was JPSU. Like
JPSU,
some
and now it's
fucking idiot
transition
gives it a new name every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll
Um,
change the transition center once they realize
Sure
that
they
that's
will.
also the same name that
It's to help
people use
guys
to
who are
transition.
releasing. It's to help guys releasing from the military transition to the civilian world. How to write a resume.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. There's actually people on ground that'll help you build all that resource out.
shit that never used to exist back in the fucking 90s,
100%.
80s, even the early 2000s. No, it kind of came to life. I think the early 2000s. It's been it's a positive thing, and I'm glad they're doing it.
Positive, Mike. You've got it. It's different. That's a whole different degree of what rating of discharge you're going to get is depending on what state your body is and what state your everything else is. The honorable or dishonorable discharge is a completely separate issue. It's more of this is now a unit that allows you to relax, take care of yourself for a minute, plan your retirement, or get yourself back into a position where you can go back and become a good rock star soldier again.
Yeah.
I didn't know, so that's new to me that you could come out of JPSU and go back to the unit.
Yeah,
Or,
if you sort the issue that is giving them the trouble, like for prime example for myself, they gave me 18 months to sort out my mental health for what was going on when I was exiting. I was a hard exit though. I was very much a medical release because at one point I thought that I had gotten blown up overseas when in fact there was no whatsoever proof of that happening. So when my brain broke, it broke. So when I was over there in the transition center, it was more they didn't even make me come in to work. I stayed at home. I wasn't even in a uniform for the first year before I was going onto the base and talking about mental health and all that kind of stuff as well too. So it's definitely something that this unit it's gone a long way from where it was to where it is today and how much it's actually helping the troops.
yeah, no, for sure. Where the fuck did he go? He'll be back. Yeah, no, like when it first stood up, it was strictly about how to take guys that were broken either physically or mentally, that were no longer functional in the military, like couldn't do what we needed to do. And understand back then there was high operational tempo
100
in Afghanistan. We were doing war fighting. So there was guys coming back that were either not all fucked up upstairs, and I don't mean that in a bad way because I'm there.
Yeah. And physically
guys that were physically broken, like missing a fucking limb, you know.
Yeah, prime example. Yeah,
they there was an immediate understanding. We need to create an organization to help these guys, to help them, not just help them leave the military, help them literally transition into the civilian world, help them work on a resume, help them take. I've wrote a fucking not 100, but a lot of resumes for guys, you know, because I had somebody help me when I got out, turn Army speak
into what it is with
civilian speak.
Yeah.
Like you don't know the skill sets you have in an intermediate senior leadership position in the military till you're out, but you don't know how to write it
translate
down.
it.
Translate it. So the guys helped me with that. And a bunch of guys gave me their resumes, and I'll bring more.
And now there's actually a position with CISIP in the transition center that'll actually help you with all that stuff. If you want to go back to work, but you don't want to be in the Army, or you break a term of service that you can't serve in the Army anymore, they'll actually set you up with a job and fire you into that position in work experience or like on-job training. To see if that's exactly what you like. And if that's not what you like, they'll reel you back in. They'll retrain you up to a certain point, and they'll let you go out again. I know guys that have done it 2 or 3 times. They think that's what they want,
man. Than it was fucking 10, 20 years ago.
They give you options now. Whereas,
right, like if you hear guys saying, and we've said this 1,000 times before on this show, having all three of us significantly or mostly benefited from Veterans Affairs or whatever, there's going to be all these guys that are just fucking dicks that have shitty things to say. Those guys were probably shitty fucking guys when they're in the Army, and they just bitch about everything, and they're not taking an advantage of the programs that are available. Fuck those guys. So there I said it. fuck you guys. If you
They're
cunts
probably the
fucking
angry corporal anyways.
they are that angry guy that you're trying to help the guy and he refuses to be helped because he'd rather be mad than get help. And those are real people that are out there, and they can go
100%.
fuck off because everything's in place. And is it easy? Not everything. No, not it's not always easy. But if it was fucking easy, everybody would do it. So take advantage of what's there, and if you don't, it's fucking on you. Is there going to be struggles taking advantage of these programs and systems to transition you from a war fighter to a civilian? Yeah, it's hard. Trust me, it's hard. I've lived through it. I've lived through it. But the programs and things are there. So if you're an angry dude, maybe you should go to transition unit, deal with your anger first, then listen, open your ears, open your eyes, get stuck on receive, not on send, and start fucking processing what's out there because there's shit available to you.
Start processing what that anger is.
Put your rage over here for a minute.
100,
and fucking listen.
Now figure out what actually is angering you, dude. If you go and talk to somebody mental health wise, they'll actually figure it out. And most of the time, anger is nothing more than sadness in disguise. That's the worst part. I've learned from 15 plus years of mental health where I've been seeking it because of my brain cracking. And I guarantee you, if you're angry, there's something that you're sad about on the inside, and you need to let go of that anger and bring it back.
Yeah, but now you're living in this upscale fucking penthouse apartment, man. Look at that fucking backdrop.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? That's definitely.
But yeah, you're right.
I promise. I'm living in the basement.
Danielle's got a comment.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Crush on that
band. She's crushing hard on the fucking sniper.
That's all right. I'm a sniper. I mean, come on now.
Sniper
who's transitioning.
Like, what did you say? They don't make movies about what? What was your line?
Supply techs or truckers.
No, they don't make movies about supply techs and cooks, right?
Yeah, there's never a movie called American Cook.
Yeah, there's no American Cook or like American EOD guy. I'm just
there
saying,
wasn't a fucking EOD movie, buddy. It was called The Hurt Locker, so fucking suck it.
Yeah, whatever.
That was a good movie.
However, who was the cool, like that movie,
that movie was
Saving Private
horrible.
Ryan.
Listen,
who was the coolest guy?
Yeah,
Who's
the
coolest
sniper
guy in
dude.
Saving
You're
Private
wrong.
Ryan? Jackson.
That movie fucking The Hurt Locker was horrible.
Who was the coolest guy in fucking
The Sniper?
Who was the coolest guy? Exactly. Who was the coolest
Enemy
guy in
at the
Fury? The Kraut Sniper. What was the coolest scene in the coolest scene in Hurt Locker was when they shot the 50 sniper scene.
No, that was not the coolest fucking scene.
They didn't make EOD with starring Todd Berenger 1 through 10. I'm just saying.
Yes. Oh my god, the best movies ever made, Sniper 1 through 19. I actually really like those movies.
It wasn't Tom Berenger EOD 1 through, right?
Snipers are awesome. I'm not lying about it. Love them. Just go do your fucking job and
Bradley
shut the
Cooper
fuck up.
wasn't in American EOD. I'm just saying.
Point and click interface. Just go get it done and tell me about it later.
All right.
Anyway, somebody's phone's ringing.
Yeah,
you guys are popular motherfuckers. Is that your lawyer? Who's calling you, man?
Yeah, I'd rather not disclose. No. I don't know. It's a cell phone that's been calling me all day, to be honest, and I don't recognize the number, so I don't.
So you just typically block those. I got Spectrum Therapeutics calling me because I haven't ordered my weed on time. Like, fuck, calm down, boys. I'll order it. Just give me a minute, man.
They will. That's the best part of some of the veteran. Yeah, they will remind you, and they'll remind you ferociously too.
Danielle, it's okay to think snipers are fucking hot. They're cool fucking dudes. I fucking pound one out to them every night. Trust me.
Just saying.
Hey, when I was overseas, that's all I jerked off to for sure.
I know, snipers. My God, fucking snipers. So fucking hot with their sexy hair and their beards and their cool kit.
Yeah, and
we actually had long hair and beards too. We were the only regular army guys that had long hair and beards. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you guys would walk into CAF and everybody be like, "Ooh."
Everywhere we went, man, it was a wet drop song. I'm just saying.
I know. Let's transition here. A little more somber, but I mean, I want to put a good spin on it. It's up to Morgan. You lost some brothers this week or last week, last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the floor, bro.
Well, you know what? It's something that I think we've kind of discussed, like over, through the entirety of this podcast. We talk. It's one thing to lose guys overseas. it's another thing, to kind of lose guys here in Canada. And it happens all the time. It happens way more than it should. And it's just, unfortunately, it kind of comes with the territory for guys like us. I mean, how many guys do we know that we've lost brothers, here in Canada to suicide, right? And I mean, last week for me, it was like on a Tuesday. I get a call from a deputy commanding officer, and then on Thursday I get another phone call, from my brothers, saying we lost another guy. And the picture right now is Warrant Officer Dennis Eason. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with Dennis. I mean, Dennis put me through my basic sniper course. Dennis Eason is the last serving. He's still currently serving sniper, from Operation Apollo, 2002. OG sniper. He's, he wasn't just well known to like me and like my friend, but like he was well known within the sniper community, army wide. There, members of the Royal Canadian Regiment knew him. Royal 22nd Regiment, all the boys in Quebec knew him. When he passed, I mean, I received calls. I mean, obviously from Quebec, Ontario, New Brunswick, Shiloh, Manitoba, all over Alberta. I mean, all over the rest of the country. I was getting calls from the UK, from Ireland, from Australia, Quantico, Virginia, Bridgeport, California. I mean, the list goes on. I was getting calls from, exactly U.S. Army, Royal Army. I mean, it was nonstop. I mean, Dennis Eason he was a close personal friend of mine. He was a mentor to, people all over this world. And Dennis was a guy that like nobody knew he was suffering. He was the guy that he was everybody's rock. Everybody. When shit was shitty, you called Dennis.
And he was everybody else's,
To lose a guy like this for a sniper community, which is a very small community, was I can't remember the last time something like rocked our foundation, like losing Dennis, the way we lost him. It was absolutely brutal. It was, it's one of, it really makes you think, because if you had, if this had been a month ago, people were like, how's Dennis doing? Like, Dennis is awesome. I mean,
he's
Dennis.
good to go. He's good to go.
Good to go.
Yeah.
But these guys, I mean,
but that's the thing. We're all good to go till we're not.
And that's what it, because Kris, like, we all talk to fucking therapists, and that's what they tell us. So like, you guys are good at pushing next objective until you're not.
I think that's one of those things. We're trained that way. And
we are trained that way. We're trained that way to put on a face, put on a smile, look after the boys, make sure, we hit the next objective. But, it's definitely
me, right? You ever heard that term, men mission me? That sounds fucking fromage, like some Hollywood shit. That
is last in the order march.
That's how we live. Men come first.
Yeah.
Or mission men me.
Yeah, whatever. It's scary. The last
mission men me. I kind of flipped it out as I saw convenient. If the mission was bullshit, I'm like, no, men first.
Yeah,
just 3M me was always last, and I live that to this day.
I know, like, people talk a big game. They're like, oh, so and so was in the army and he was a hero and shit like this. Like I said, Dennis was like first combat operation since Korea, 2002 Operation Apollo, and the guys who seen the most action, the guys who seen the most action were snipers. There was a half a dozen snipers that received Bronze Stars from the American military, from the U.S. government, because of Operation Anaconda, in support of, the 101st Airborne and a few Special Forces guys. That was Dennis. Like, that's what he did. He has, he had a Bronze Star from the U.S. government. Like, I mean, Dennis was that guy. He was a badass motherfucker. Like, he was, I mean, words don't describe Dennis Eason, right? Like, I'm actually going to tell a funny story about Dennis. Okay. I think it was like 2013. I'm in, for those of you who've been to Wainwright, I was in Seville Farm.
I'm pretty sure fucking nobody's watching this has been to Wayne. Well, maybe.
Who knows? But we're in this shitty part of Wainwright. It's Seville Farm. It's like February. It's Wainwright. It's like -1 million. And we're doing some bullshit task, like enemy force. And there was me, my buddy Gavin, and Dennis, like, you know, and we're in this fucking shitty fucking sea can with a 2-burner stove, you know, boiling a few hot dogs or something stupid just to stay warm. But we had this like second lieutenant who didn't even have a hat badge yet. He hadn't even done phase 3, but he got sent to the battalion for like OJT or some shit. And he looks at, and Dennis was a sergeant at the time. He was senior rank, and he looks at Dennis and he's just like, "Hey, Sergeant Easton." He's like, "How'd you become a sniper?" And Dennis was a very quiet guy, like absolute pro. And Dennis looks at him. He's like, "Well, you know, I actually joined the Air Force Reserve in Newfoundland, and I was a supply tech." And Dennis is telling the truth. Like, this is true. Like, I know Dennis. He actually joined like the Air Force as a supply tech in Newfoundland. And he ended up component transferring to the Army.
Fucking not a bad decision.
That's a smart way to get in.
So Dennis is like, he's like, you know, I was a supply tech in the Air Force, and I woke up one morning and I decided I wanted to be a sniper, and Bob's your uncle. And he just walks away. Like,
that's the whole story.
That's the whole story. And me and my buddy Gavin are just like, we look at each other and we're like trying to hold after, because this young second lieutenant, this young officer who's old, he's like taking notes, like, I could be a sniper too. Like,
I want to be. Yeah.
They're always looking for these huge, massive stories, like Hollywood stories. Like, and we fucking talked about this the first time I interviewed you guys, and you know, like Morgan has a fucking quasi cool story. I joined that. I always knew I wanted to be in the Army. When people ask me, they're like, "Well, what did you join? It's because your grandfather." I said, "No, I needed a fucking summer job, man."
Yeah.
25 years later, I still need one. Unfortunately, Dennis is not the only guy.
No. This last month has been rough on the.
So here we are, Morgan.
Walk us through this. So 2 days before Dennis, a very close personal friend of mine, and he was a master corporal. He wasn't a sniper. He was a weapons tech, man, Reg Shabasal, from Pictou, Nova Scotia. When I got posted to the infantry school, he was in a weapons shop down there, and he was an absolute master of his trade. He helped me like on the side, like as a civilian, like he would build.
Was he always a weapons tech?
Before he joined the military, he was a machinist.
Okay.
So kind of makes sense.
Well, that makes sense.
Most weapons techs in the Army are like, they change parts, but this guy was like a genuine master of his trade. Like he could put parts on, like, oh, this doesn't fit, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. He put on a lathe and he'd make it fit. Like,
so he was working with snipers.
And he kind of got picked up. Like, there was myself and a few other snipers. We were like, this guy has some potential. Like, and he enjoyed like long range precision rifle fire. We kind of took him under our wing, and next thing you know, we started getting some new sniper weapon systems, and the weapons tech trade started kind of identifying, we need guys that can deal with precision rifles.
That's like Rick Clark.
Yeah, Rick's a perfect
Rick's
example.
A great example. A guy that was a sniper who said, "I'm going to become a weapons tech and help make these systems better."
Yeah, and so he ended up going to like Colt. So Reg ended up going to Colt Canada to do all the training for the precision rifle systems and things like this. And like, so, and even as a young corporal, as a master corporal, when I would teach my intermediate, my advanced sniper courses, he would come in and do classes on, like, you know, care and maintenance sniper weapon systems and like deviations you're going to see and things like that. And like, he was also another one of these guys, like anybody in the last like probably 5 years, like 7 years, that had been through Gagetown and had done like an intermediate or advanced sniper course. They knew this guy. Like,
so not to fucking stereotype it, because it always feels like every time we talk about a guy that took his own life, it's like, well, did he deploy? So I'm asking the fucking question on behalf of everybody else. Was he deployed, or do you have other shit going on? Like, what the fuck happened?
You know what? Reg never deployed. So Reg never deployed.
And I'm not saying I'm not downplaying.
No, I understand.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a guy like Reg who he never deployed. Absolute master of his trade, an absolute fucking gem.
Was he still current? He was current serving, right?
He was current serving. So was Dennis. Dennis was current serving.
That's fucked, man.
And Dennis was the, you know, almost like the polar opposite. Dennis was like infantryman to the core. paratrooper. I mean,
Yeah.
Dennis never failed anything in his life.
Every hardcore cool kid checking the box. Yeah.
Every cool kid, every badass thing that you could do
Yeah.
in the Green Army, man, Dennis did it, and he was an absolute fucking pro. Like, and he wasn't excitable, man. Like, like I said, it was absolutely like when we've all dealt with, with similar situations. But when this happened, I've never received more phone calls in my life. I've never had to make more phone calls in my life to be like, wow, like Dennis Eason. Like, he was born and raised in Conception Bay South.
You know what?
Newfoundlander like myself, and just an absolute, just a boss player. He's close personal friend of mine and one of my mentors. Like, I would not be where I am today, without Dennis.
Damn.
Isn't it fucking crazy?
I'll leave it at that, right?
The best snipers in the world are Canadians, and the best of the best snipers of those guys are Newfies for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, you Irish descendants, hey? You
gotta be. Not wrong. I'm not wrong.
You wonder why. I wonder why.
Morgan would know better than me, but it feels like all the fucking dudes that are the best were Newfie dudes or Prairie Boys.
Yeah, a lot of more. Dennis was a Newfie. Rob Furlong was a Newfie. Aaron Perry,
Alex Alexander was a fucking Alberta boy. So
he was Dallas, but he was a Patricia though.
He was a Patricia, but he was also Métis long shooter. All the long shooters, man. I don't know. It's a sad thing. It just feels like it. And I'm not gonna get it. I'm not gonna go fucking into this touchy feely shit because I got to wrap this shit up pretty quick here. I got other commitments tonight. It's not going away. I want to think that every year that we're further away from that war, that it gets easier. But here's the reality: it doesn't, because it took me a long time to fucking deal with my shit, and it actually took all my fucking people around me to fucking choke me out and say you need to deal with your shit. And then you got guys like that are back in, like, he was in fucking on Apollo. That's 02, 03, 03.
02.
No, 02. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That's a fucking 100 years ago. But I'll park it with this. If you know people who've gone through traumatic shit in their life, it doesn't mean they're gonna fucking experience the effects of PTSD right away. It could take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15, 10, 20 years. So for a guy like that who's a rock, that he was the go-to guy, and suddenly, and he was a father, a husband, a son, to check out that way, it makes you fucking think about a lot of shit that,
Absolutely.
Check your people around you.
Check on the hard ones too,
yeah.
Check on the fucking ones you think are easy. The hard ones are fucking no-brainers. Check on the ones who think are rocks and say, hey, how you doing? Even if his buddy's fucking looks like he's good to go, maybe he's not good to go.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the lesson I'm getting out of Morgan's story here, is that the guys that are fucking rocks might not be rocks. Everybody needs to be checked on.
Everybody has a breaking point,
Right back in the fucking day, we checked on everybody. Like when I was a section commander, whatever, and I had 5-10 guys under me, I checked on all of them. Even though this guy was good to go and this guy was fucked up in life, I checked on all of them. Why is it any different now? Why is it any different now?
No shit.
Check on all your people. And for all you guys watching and listening to this fucking after the fact, you got people in your life who've been through some shit. Don't think that just because they're a rock and they can handle shit that they can, because maybe they can't. Check on your people. We're in a fucked up world right now. This is the world.
If there's any veterans out there who want to volunteer, I've got a veteran peer support line. It's powered by TELUS. It's international. It's upgoing and ongoing right now. I've got less than 10 volunteers that are vouched veterans. So if you have a minute, you have 10 minutes, I don't care if you're in BC or in Newfoundland or in Alaska. If I can vouch your service and your mental health is solid enough where you're willing to talk to somebody in crisis with some resources, get a hold of me. I've established a line. We can help a lot of people.
And I'll make sure when I'm done here, I'll post all of Bryce's contact details down below. I don't know where down below is, but that's what they say on YouTube. Yeah, Bryce has got some connections. Yeah, fucking. I didn't want to fucking finish this on a somber note, but I just want to talk about a bit of reality. And this is where we're at. And I want to thank everybody for fucking tuning in, listening, and watching today. And yeah, fucking be cool. Hopefully the Oilers win. Hopefully Toronto doesn't. So let's wrap this shit up, boys. Mr. Bryce Hooper, Mr. Morgan Warren. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in tonight and today. I'm doing this post thing. Fire for Effect Live is brought to you by Positive Mike's Brewing. You can get the gear. Can't get the beer. I got the beer. Come on over if you want the beer. Mike will hook you up. Check out his socials at at Positive Mike's Brewing. Also brought to you by the Veteran Farmer. The good folks at Veteran Farmer are using medicinal cannabis and a bunch of other resources to help veterans transitioning out of the military to manage that transition. So they've helped me and they can help you. And by Above Your Service, except Bryce still won't send me the fucking imagery. We'll deal with that later. So that's it. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I'm out till next week. Go Oilers. Ciao.